Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I want to remind both everyone of something that I think has been a bit overlooked, as well as speculate on some more of what we can expect from this next big Division 2 update. Now that we've seen a glimpse of what's coming in the Specialization Revamp, as I've said before, I think it was pretty indicative of just how this will end up being one of the most ambitious title updates for the game, as Massive recently claimed themselves, and I can't wait to see what other features will ultimately deliver on that promise. So let's just get right into it. That primary reminder that I was just speaking of is this. A lot of people have their sights set on the big January reveal for this update, as Massive informed us on, and rightly so. I mean, they said that's when we're going to get the big reveal for both the new update season as well as the game mode, and so, perhaps some other stuff too, but that's like the big info drop. That's the meat of the update, the meat of the new content, I should say, assumedly shortly followed by the PTS for PC. But something that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about is how, like the article told us, every month leading up to the update's release, we're going to be getting additional Intelligence Annex articles, similar to the Specialization Revamp one that we just got. It's unclear to me if that will hold true in January, given that's the big reveal month, but that's kind of irrelevant. Point is, we're going to be receiving more crucial information about this coming update much sooner than the January reveal, notably in 3 weeks, assumedly near the end of November, and then once more at some point in December. And I don't think that they should be brushed off, because already the Specialization Revamp news and the brief insight has caused much discussion, debate, and thought in the community, from people's appreciation of the new intercompatibility with stuff like the skill mods and the pistols of the specs and whatnot, to the excitement and curiosity over the potential of the new spec skill tree system, and the heated debate over what the inclusion of supposed instant armor kits, as well as the reintroduction of specialization weapons to the DZ, will ultimately mean for PvP in the Division 2 moving forward. So what might have felt like a more minor component and reveal for the update was actually, and has already proven to be, pretty huge. I mean, I was super hyped the moment they mentioned the revamp because I've been wanting it since year one, but I know some people were like, meh, but it's already proved to have some major implications beyond just its own system. And I think we shouldn't doubt the potential impact of what these other Intelligence Annex articles could reveal to us, because if you think about it, we know what they're not going to talk about, either the new season or the new game mode. Those are being saved for January, and I think this is the perfect case of where people have been like, this update isn't going to be big, it's going to be a regurgitated season, a shallow, boring game mode, and some pointless changes. And I'm just like, if the spec revamp news wasn't enough to tell you how the devs are seriously attempting an ambitious update that is going to redefine the Division 2's endgame, then I think the evidence is only going to stack for each additional Intelligence Annex report that we receive, which again, we're only roughly 3 weeks out from receiving the next one, and then one more in December before the big reveal. So the big question I want to raise is, what are these articles going to unveil? What other aspects of the game are receiving major reworks or improvements that are worthy of an article detailing some of their plans? Obviously, the possibilities are pretty wide, and given how I think it's pretty obvious at this point that the devs weren't exaggerating about their ambitious claims for this next update, I think it's pretty exciting to start thinking about what other systems or features the game could be receiving changes, or what new systems and features could be getting introduced. And so I just want to give you guys some of my thoughts on what I think could be discussed in those articles, but of course, I want to hear your speculations on what you think those might be, and what those articles might focus on down below. I'll start off with this. Something that I and many have speculated that we may be seeing in this update ever since we got the first details about it back in March, I think, was when they first started talking about the actual content of it. And that speculation is that there's a pretty good chance we're going to see some pretty widespread, holistic gear talent rebalancing, reworks, and changes. I have to imagine that, at least to a degree, even with the limited info we have on the spec rework, they're going to have to look at some of the existing talents that may or may not fit in well with some of the new systems and armor kit functionalities and whatnot. Efficient, unbreakable, maybe even adrenaline rush. Some of those are, at least going to have to be looked at in terms of what they may be capable of now with the new, tools in our toolkit. And not to mention, we haven't gotten any sort of big talent refresh since Gear 2.0 and Warlords of New York dropped. And in the first Intelligence Annex article from the other week, Trick even said, we've been analyzing player build choices and trends for a long time. So I have no doubt that they know how I'd say probably half the talents in our rosters are widely underused because they're just not viable or they're too situational. And so not only am I highly confident that we're going to see a somewhat substantial talent refresh across the board with this update, I think it's very plausible that that could be the subject of one of these next two upcoming Intelligence Annex articles. Because that's a major deal, and I think a lot of players would not only be excited to hear about those upcoming changes, but appreciate hearing about some of these specific plans in mind, before the update and the PTS roll around. So that's one prediction of mine, that one of the articles will focus on a widespread gear talent refresh. Other than that, I don't have anything I'm super locked in on, but I'll share one kind of left field pick I have, and that is I think it's at least possible that we could see a weapons 3.0. I think that an entire gear 3.0 might be too out of scope for this update, given the dev team size we're working with, given the amount of stuff they already have on their plate for this update to come together. However, weapons specifically are something that, A, I found pretty underwhelming and frankly boring ever since their changes with TU8 and Warlords, and B, they could realistically do a substantial weapon change without having to redesign other systems around it. They wouldn't have to redesign how the gear works, because those two things, weapons and gear, work pretty independently. The big issue I have with weapons are both that their talents are widely useless and boring, except for the same 5 that we choose every time, as well as the fact that the acquisition of a good gun is just kind of easy and unfulfilling. You get Optimist and damage to targets out of cover on anything, and you're good. It's just kind of boring. So I don't know how likely this is, but I would love to see some kind of redesign that perhaps gives us 2 or 3 talents back on guns with more function and use, as well as a buff or redesign to the attribute selection on weapons to make anything other than damage to targets out of cover or damage to armor viable. Because like I said, I just find that whole system to be pretty boring. And so if that's a change that's potentially in the books, then I could totally see them dedicating one of the Intelligence Annex articles to that. But the primary thing I just want to drive home with this video is that we don't have to wait until January to see the full scope of this ambitious update. The spec rework article already showed us how much that system alone is going to transform, build making and the approach to content. And we probably can't even begin to imagine what or how these other subjects could affect the game in their own ways. Maybe they're looking to do a bounty redesign, an expansion to the keener watch system, new exotic pairings and bonuses like we saw with some of the sets in Div 1. Targeted loot changes, a gear set rework. There's so many possibilities. And I think that each of these components that will be featured in these Intelligence Annex articles are going to contribute to making this update for the Division 2 that much more impactful and transformative for the endgame experience. And I, for one, really cannot wait to see our next glimpse at that piece of the puzzle, like I said, in right around 3 weeks. It's an exciting time to be a Division fan, and I think when it's all said and done, and we get to that January reveal date, we're going to marvel at just how ambitious this title update is really going to end up being. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe with notifications on so you can be updated every time I upload. Let me know your thoughts on this subject of the upcoming Intelligence Annex installations. Are you A, excited to see what these next 2 articles before the January reveal have to unveil, and B, what do you think they'll focus on? Further reworks to old systems or perhaps additions of new ones? Whatever you're thinking, absolutely let me know down below. I'm very curious to hear what everyone will have to say about this topic. I was going to say the same old spiel, but everyone's heard it by now. I'm excited. I've been a fan of this franchise ever since March 8th of 2016, and this feels like one of those rare times in this series where we're in for a real surprise, a real treat. Nothing has been leaked, nothing has been hinted at, and so while I can't wait to see what comes next, I'm also kind of enjoying this period of mystery that we're in. I think it's just fun to think about the pretty endless possibilities of what could be coming. It's exciting stuff, really. Alright everyone, well that is going to do it for today. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and until the next one guys, RogueGold. Out.